Welcome to another episode of Children of Courage. Today, my co-host talks to some of her friends about fear and how they react to it. Ava.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I think I really just wanted this to be, obviously I'm like talking to my friends, so it's kind of a comfortable environment, but I really wanted this, like when it airs for when people to see kind of like the mind inside the teen, I guess. I don't know if you would say like that. But I think with every teen, or I guess with every high school and stuff, there's always like fears, like insecurities, body image issues, but also just that pressure to, start thinking about college and start thinking about life and stuff. So I thought this was important to talk to my friends about it because I think it's an issue that's not really talked about. Like maybe it's talked about in like some indie short film or whatever, like I'm struggling, like, but we want it to be really authentic and real, like to hear from real teens, their stress and their worries and how they're, coping with it and stuff. Like finding ways, like meditating or just finding ways to, reassure yourself that you're fine, you're perfect, you're beautiful, you got this and stuff. And it also helps, with reaching out to family and friends and stuff. And I think it's a good reminder, we're having this discussion, like my friends and I, our teens and I, to have this discussion, and it kind of, maybe it might trigger, someone to talk with their friends about.
What gave you the idea to bring this very difficult topic to your friends?
I guess, well, school's starting soon. I'm really freaking out about it because, I'm taking kind of challenging classes and stuff, and, with my advisors, and they're kind of mentioning all this college stuff, and so I was like, this is really freaking me out, and I think I wanted a way that I can de-stress and also maybe like help my friends to kind of de-stress and talk about it. So I guess that kind of, my fears inspired, I guess, a reason to make
When you invited your friends over to have this conversation, how did they react?
At first they didn't, well, I'm a horrible explainer, so when I was talking to them about it, they're like, wait, what is this? And so I had to text them this whole like long thing explaining it and stuff. And they were like really interested, with it and stuff because, like we're all friends and we all know each other and stuff. And I think they maybe saw that it was a good opportunity to kind of let loose and vocalize what they have to say.
Well, now with Ava, we will meet some of these children of courage.
Yeah. Julia, thank you so much for being here today and taking the time out of your day to answer some questions about fear and the impact it may or may not have on you. So let's get started with getting to know you. So how old are you?
I'm 16 years old. I just turned 16 in June.
Nice, and happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
So can you share a little bit about yourself, like just some background information?
Yeah, so I'm currently a sophomore in high school. I am a mid-distance cross-country runner, and I also throw the shot put in track and field. I love the 800 meters, 400 meters, and I'm doing 1,500 meters this year. I'm also a disability advocate and activist, and I love theater and public speaking and debate. So that's just a little bit about me. I also have cerebral palsy, so I'm an advocate for people with disabilities, like I said.
Hello, Audrey!
Hi,
Hi. Thank you so much for being here today and taking the time out of your day to, get a little interview on. So I guess let's get started with getting to know you first. So how old are you?
I'm 15 years old. I just turned 15.
Nice. Happy belated birthday to you.
Thank you.
So can you share a little bit about yourself, like favorite hobbies, guilty pleasures, anything you want, really?
Yeah, I am a sophomore, incoming sophomore, at all girls school, and In my free time, I like to read. I really like politics and fashion. And I also am a singer. I'm part of the Los Angeles Children's Chorus.
Wow.
And I also do debate.
Nice. Can you sing a little something? I'm just kidding.
Some impromptu in this interview.
Yeah. Hello, Maddie. Thank you so much for being here and, taking the time out of your day to, come here and do a little interview. So
Thank you for having me.
yeah. So I guess let's just get started with asking, questions about you. So how old are you?
I am 15 currently, and I am a sophomore in high school,
Nice.
or going into.
Nice. So can you share a little bit about your background? Like, it could honestly be anything you want, like guilty pleasures, Christmas present you got when you were 5. Anything.
I like to listen to music in my spare time, and I also like animals, like my pets, and I guess, I don't know, relaxing.
Nice. So can you share a memory of your childhood that still impacts you today?
Wow, this is a really hard question, but I think I would say a memory from my childhood that impacts me was probably, if we're speaking positively, the time that I started to accept myself as a disabled person, I think was really impactful for me because I started realizing my own worth, and I think that happened maybe around like after middle school and even kind of in high school, like freshman year. I think it was really impactful for me to like finally realize my worth as a resilient person. So that would be a memory that impacts me. And I think coming actually to my high school, Florida Sacred Heart, that was one of the best memories that impacts me now. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's so heartwarming. Okay. The next question I have is, or more of a statement is, name one thing you were afraid of when you were younger.
I think when I was younger, I was afraid of getting prejudged, and I was afraid of being judged just by like the circumstance I was in, just by like my disability and not having people really getting to know me first. That's something that I've still to this day kind of struggled with.
So do you think your fear has changed? Like,
I think it's evolved. Kind of with realizing my worth, and kind of putting my mental health first, and I'm a big advocate of mental health and getting the help that you need. I see it as a strength and not a weakness. So I think in that sense, my fear is kind of evolved into more of a strength.
oh, very inspirational. I mean, it seems like you kind of have overcome, but do you try to avoid, like, is there ever a point in time you kind of start thinking in the back of your brain, like, these fears and these thoughts and stuff? Do you ever try to avoid it, or are you kind of, like, past that?
There's definitely those moments where I honestly just kind of get into a state where I feel very overwhelmed. I feel like stress can kind of do that, and in middle school and just kind of sometimes in school that can happen, but genuinely I try and stay more positive just so I can like get through things.
Yeah.
But there's definitely those moments where I'm like, okay, I just need to sit and be present with myself because I'm feeling very overwhelmed right now.
Name one thing you were afraid of when you were, a little kid.
I was really afraid of hospitals. Anything medical scared me so bad. I had an accident when I was younger where I had to get stitches. Ever since that moment, deathly afraid of needles. The smell of a hospital room just scared me so bad.
It kind of smells, I don't know, I like the smell of rubbing alcohol for some reason.
Yeah, not me.
Yeah, I can tell. Well, has that fear changed?
Yeah, it actually changed a lot because, you do have to go to your yearly doctor's appointment. You have to go to the dentist. You have to, go to these clinical appointments. So I think I just kind of understood that if I calm myself down before the appointment, the shot, wouldn't hurt as much. And the same thing with drawing blood. It doesn't hurt as much if you just don't think about it and understand this is 2 seconds of your life. It's going to be fine. You get a cupcake after. So.
Yeah. What fear do you have now? Besides the needles, you kind of overcome that, but is there any a fear that you kind of think about on a daily basis?
I guess my greatest fear now would probably be like adequacy and success, you know, because a lot of pressure gets put on you. I'm an oldest like child, so I've always kind of like felt that I needed to like succeed, you know, in order to please my parents or just anybody around me. Like I had something to prove for all the people who've ever underestimated me, because, you know, I have really big aspirations. So, you know, I have to get good grades, I have to be the best singer, I have to be the best at this, you know, and I think that could be really detrimental in a way because you can't always be the best. So then you start to, you know, look inwardly and think it's something wrong with yourself, and it's not. That's just kind of how, you know, life goes. And there's a difference between, you know, working hard and, you know, just overworking yourself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, well, it kind of looks like you kind of overcame it, but is there ever like a point in time where you kind of still think about it in the back of your mind? Like, is there a way that you try to avoid kind of thinking about that fear?
Of course. I mean, you have to, like, usually I watch like High School Musical and I'm like, look, those high school kids are having so much fun. Like, I should just relax a little bit and it's fine. So, High School Musical, it's a great cure.
Wow. Listen to that, people. High School Musical is a cure. Can you share a memory of your childhood that still impacts you today?
Okay, this isn't very much a childhood memory. It happened like in 8th grade, but
Okay.
it's still
You're still
still
kid.
think about it every
Yeah.
once in a while. But it was art class, and someone put their leg out and tripped me, and I fell on my face, and the whole class went silent. Yeah, it was kind of traumatic for my 13-year-old self.
Oh gosh, that would be traumatic for me, like even now.
Mhm.
Well, why does this memory, you know, why do you still have it in the back of your mind, or why do you
Probably
still care?
because of the people's reaction, because ever since I was pretty young, I'd always think about how people perceive me and what they think of me. So, yeah, still dealing with that today. So,
Okay, well, you're a true survivor. So I guess, yeah, well, what was one thing you were afraid of when you were, you know, younger?
I mean, when I was younger, they're mostly just like stupid fears like snakes and Frankenstein, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But on a more serious note, probably like not, like I had this fear of not being happy in the future, like what I do with myself, and if it's something that'll actually satisfy me when I'm an old person.
Wow.
Yeah.
Deep thoughts for
Like a 7-year-old,
I
I know.
know. I'm stressing already, but has that fear changed now?
No, probably a little bit, but not too much. Everybody around me has been really nice and have comforted me a lot, so that's been very helpful. But there's still some pressure, I feel like, to be the perfect version of myself in the future. But yeah.
Well, besides me, have you ever shared these fears with anyone else?
I feel like I've shared it with like my friends and my family, and you know, just talking to other disabled people, kind of making connections between each other. I feel like sometimes we may have the same fears of being prejudged, so I've kind of found some support within talking to people I trust, and that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think I've definitely talked about it, I think, with peers who kind of share my same fear, you know, whatever they've gone through in their lives. They have to feel like, you know, they also have something to prove. And it's nice to, you know that somebody else has those same worries.
I mean, this fear that you have, is it still kind of affecting you? I mean, I know we kind of already talked about it and stuff, that you're kind of overcoming it and it's kind of in the back of your mind, but like, is there still like points in time where you think about, I have to be the best, I have to be successful, I have to finish this essay, like, is there points in time where it kind of gets overwhelming?
Yeah, you know, it does. That's also inevitable, though, because especially, you know, we go to a very nice school and some of the material can be very challenging, and you see somebody else understand something immediately and you're like, hold on, and then you just realize maybe I'm just not that great at geometry, and that's okay. I have strengths other places, you know. I'm not going to go into a career in math, so it's okay if I don't like ace every test.
Yeah, mostly like my sister and my friend. Shout out to Kristen. Just kidding.
Go, Kristen!
But yeah, I've shared it with mostly like my family members who I'm really close with, like my parents and my sister, obviously. So, yeah, they've been really nice and
That's
helpful.
nice. Yeah. I mean, when you share these, kind of fears, do you kind of get the reaction you want? Is it like, are they comforting or is it more
Well,
like...
usually it's just like a reaction I don't expect, which is usually very, very overly nice.
Oh.
But yeah, I appreciate it a lot. So,
Yeah, that's good. What advice would you give to your younger self, knowing what you know now?
like about anything or?
I mean, it could be fears. It could only just be anything, like all, going through high school and going through all this stuff, learning so much stuff. So
Probably to stop caring about what other people think about you and just do what you want. Like, don't focus on anyone else's opinions. And to wear your rubber bands when you have your braces, because then you'll have to wear it for another 2 months.
oh gosh,
It's not fun.
I would tell my younger self that, like, you're still, like, really beautiful no matter what you think, and to not, like, try to change yourself. It sounds so corny, but, like, don't try to change yourself, because you're gonna spend, like, a lot of time really upset about that and trying to chase, like, this perfect image that you're never gonna get. And you're so much better off focusing on things that you like and things that make you happy, because you're just, like, running in circles around your brain. It's like this spiral, and it's just not worth it.
So what advice would you give to your younger self, like knowing what you know now?
Okay. So, what are we talking my younger self? Like middle school, like younger?
I'm gonna say middle school.
Okay, so if middle school me was sitting right where you are, I would probably say to her, embrace yourself and live yourself fully, and the things that people see as your weaknesses and your limitations are actually your strengths, and you can and you will become a person that can live fully and be themselves and become limitless and overcome circumstance. So that's what I would say to myself.
Wow, you've definitely learned a lot. And do you think the advice that you gave your younger self, do you think that applies to you now? Like, that's advice you would listen?
100%. I feel like, in just mental health, I'm still kind of learning to accept myself, and I feel like genuinely as people, we are always trying to find new ways to accept ourselves and accept our own truth. And so I definitely agree with that now as a 16-year-old compared to when I was in middle school.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I mean, for being so open and vulnerable and talking about your experiences and stuff. It was really a joy, to talk and know a little more about you. So thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Fear and angst is something that's very real for not just our generation, but for every generation. Every generation has their fears that are really colored by the times and the era. You had an opportunity, Ava, to talk to some of your peers about fear. What did you find out?
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. I think with all the girls that I talked to, all my friends I talked to, we had like things in common. And especially one thing that was really like eye-opening for me is another girl. She was talking about like her fears of the future and stuff, and having this pressure to, have this perfect life, go to a great college and stuff and already know what you're doing, or already know what you want to do like your sophomore year. And that's something I feel strongly about, because I feel like there's a lot of pressure, and I think I really freak out, and I try to like avoid thinking about the future and applications, job applications, college applications, all that stuff, and it's really overwhelming. And to hear like another peer and another friend, be open and talk about that was really great. And
Is this the first time that you've had an opportunity to talk to your friends about these kinds of fears?
actually, yeah, I think about the hangouts that we've had, and we don't really talk about, I guess you would say serious stuff like that. I think the fears that I have, I've always kept to myself and not really been open like to my friends and stuff. And I think partially is that it's a very vulnerable thing, even though they're your friends, but to open up and kind of talk about like this pressure and what you want to do. And it's also could be like comparing each other, like, oh, she already knows what she wants to do and she wants to go this college, and I'm like, oh, well, I don't know what I want to do, and can I even get to that, fancy college and stuff like that. But it was really, great to hear.
Having that knowledge now and understanding that your friends share some really common fears with you, how do you feel?
I think better. I think it makes me feel happy that we can all be open about this stuff and kind of open up a conversation to I guess talk about these things.
Is this the first time that you've iterated and spoken about your fears?
I think so, because when I think about like all my fears, not like fears of spiders, but I guess like real things, like I'll kind of touch on it like with talking to my mom and dad, but I actually mostly keep to myself, which is probably not a great thing. So, yeah.
I'm glad that you had this opportunity to voice your fears, and also that your friends had an opportunity.
Definitely, yeah.
Fear's a very real thing. I remember in college, I had gone away to college. I had gone to Wyoming for college, and that was a very fearful moment for me. Being away from home for any length of time for the first time. Being 1,100 miles from my parents. I wanted to be 1,100 miles from my parents, but at the same time I didn't want to be 1,100 miles from my parents. I was completely on my own. It was jarring. It was a rough experience. So I know that the fears that your friends were talking about today are very real, and they're very relevant to what's going on in your life. You've got a future ahead of you, and the future is always uncertain. It's filled with lots of unknowns, and it can be scary. So in your day-to-day life, when you're hanging out with your friends, do you, in the back of your head, do you ever think that the fears are there? Do you ever wonder if they're experiencing something similar? Prior to today, I mean.
Yeah, definitely. I think, like, when I'm at a park or something, we're kind of just like talking about, I don't know, MTV, whatever and stuff. Like, it's always in the back of my mind if I should, maybe bring something up, just because we're getting closer to school starting. And I think, like, every day that goes by, every second, it's like still in me. And so I think I do. Well, to answer your question, yes, I sometimes do think about it, when we're hanging out, that I should bring something up, and I think it'll benefit both of us to kind of talk about these things.
Why don't you?
I don't really know. I mean, I think at least for me, I always like compare myself to others, and always I feel like that's still gonna be, I think that's happening like forever and stuff. But I think maybe if I like talk about like, oh, I really don't know what I want to do, and maybe I don't want to go to like a super fancy college, maybe start out at community college and stuff, and I feel like one of my friends wants to be a doctor and stuff, and she kind of has things set up, and it's not like I feel like they're gonna judge me for like not knowing what I want to do, but it's just me personally.
Sure.
I feel like weird about, maybe because I never really thought. I don't know how to answer that question. I kind of go all over the place.
And not knowing how to answer is a very real answer. That's always, I think that's one of the things going forward from this conversation is that you don't have all the answers. I know I certainly didn't have all the answers. I didn't know how to use a coin-operated laundry machine when I went away to college. I said that something minor, but it would really stress me out because it didn't have the same buttons as my washing machine at home.
Yeah.
That's a real fear going forward, and even the small fears like that, it can be anxiety filled for
Exactly.
So it's great that you were able to have this conversation. It's great that you were able to talk to your friends on kind of a different level, in a safe place, in a safe way, about things that are very real for you. We're here with Jeffrey Ramos, who has a podcast called
Becoming the Podcast. Thank you so much for having me.
Glad to have you. So we've talked a little bit today about fear and angst and moving forward in life. Your podcast deals a little bit with that, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, 100%. So my podcast, Becoming the Podcast, is all about post-grad realities. So it's everything, what happens in life after you leave college. We know tons of stories and movies about the good old days in college. We know all the fun days of being a parent and having kids or being with your loved ones, running your own business. But we don't hear much about the in-between, about the first jobs, about the first apartment you get, or how did you make it all work out. And so my podcast deals with going into that because it's generally a overlooked part of our entire life structure. The idea sort of came from my generation these days is very connected, as through the internet, LinkedIn, Instagram. So when we leave college, we're still fully aware of what everybody's doing through our, online newspaper. And all we see are the good stuff, which is I got a job, I got engaged, I have a kid, and you sort of sit down and you're like, well, I finally figured out this new laundry machine, but when I would talk to people in person, it would be, oh no, Jeffrey, it hasn't been that easy. It's, I got a job and I got fired within the first month, and they were like a 4.0 student, honors, or I've talked to people where they're like, you know what, I really I've just been staying at home the past month, and everyone has just said no, and I haven't been active on stuff just because I have nothing to share. And it's and that was everywhere. That was not just a percentage. That was everywhere. What everyone's trying. So I created the podcast to talk about that because I thought that especially people my age could use that reassurance that hey, not everything is as peachy clean as it is online.
So it's kind of this kind of wave of successes and failures is part of the normal.
Oh yes, 100%, 100%.
So on Facebook, on social media, on all the various platforms you mentioned, people don't really advertise that sort of stuff. Why not?
Oh no. A great quote that someone told me once is that social media is an alternate reality, which is 100% true because you control what's going out there. You're putting everything is sort of developed. It's not like you're walking down a street and ran to a stranger and you talk to them. And the reason why people don't put that stuff on there is because we simply just want to focus on how we look good. It's just like you're going to talk to your problems to your parents or your loved ones. You're not going to talk about your problems with, your average friend or acquaintance. You don't want them to see that side of you. And in social media, where I can literally look up, hey, Dylan's first mistakes out of college, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't want that on there. And which is completely fine. Social media is sort of like the reel of the best moments of your life. And it is still a very useful tool. It's just... it's interesting because we know that it's like that, but it's still constantly we forget that it can have an effect still.
And so, what gave the idea to address kind of the less positive moments?
Well, I think that people in this age, there are so many new beginnings. So many new beginnings. When I was a business major and I minored in film. And so it took me about a year for me to actually decide, you know what, I actually want to try out film. And so I remember, it's sort of funny to say, hey, I'm a filmmaker when I don't have any films to show you or anything. But I know in the bottom of my heart I'm a filmmaker. So like me just talking to people about my first jobs, like I accidentally spilled gasoline in my mom's car that I borrowed after I did my first job. No one does a good job, and I spill gasoline. I go home. I'm like, oh my gosh, Mom, I'm so sorry. Like I'm so embarrassed, and she's supporting me, and But you take that one success and you build on it. Everyone has such interesting stories. I had a friend of mine on the podcast, and she talked about she graduated early. She graduated 3 years on, named Gloria. And so she was really excited to just go out and work. She was one of those people that's like, here I am in college, I enjoyed my time, and now I'm going to go out and do work. And I completed my degree in less time than the average. And when she went out to go actually start doing acting jobs, because that's what she wanted to do, it was really hard for her. Obviously, it's a tough career. But she didn't realize that the effect that it's sort of like a back-to-back motion. You don't get anything, therefore you feel bad about yourself. You feel bad about yourself, and now you can't do as much. Huh. And her talking about that to me was something I felt in my own journey, like I am going through this, and I'm not receiving much success at the moment, but it is something that is like, I'm pretty sure everybody could do that. Their first jobs, I have a teacher, a friend of mine who got her master's within 2 years on the podcast. And her first school jobs when she was doing her master's in programs, she felt like, oh shoot, I'm not giving 100% of my time on the research versus the actual teaching. I need to do more of that. Am I a real teacher? Am I going to be able to teach at a place where I can be my own teacher and not feel, even though I'm the young blood that really has no authority to really put myself out there. So to wrap it up, I think that this age has a lot of new beginnings, a lot of new failures, and it's just very experimental. And I find it fun and funny, because you look back at stuff. I'm pretty sure 5 years ago, you can laugh at all the weird experiences that have happened to you.
Yeah. Your podcast has kind of a unique audience. Obviously, people from your generation, but who else listens?
So actually, our second largest audience after people around the 20s is actually parents, people above from 40 to 45. And it was really funny that we got that amount. And it was described to me because we had some people come in our live recordings. And they said, oh, my son talks about this, or my daughter goes through this, but it's so much different to like hear it through somebody else, like, because everyone wants to be proud of their kids. Everybody wants to, brag, like, oh, my son got into medical school. I'm so proud of him. But then when you hear a kid that's like, oh, I had a 4.2 GPA and I dropped out of school because I was a computer science major, and I want to live independently from my parents, so I'm going to live in a car for like 6 years so I can own a property within 6 years, and then I will just code in Starbucks and all these other places. It makes you really question, like, oh, my kid does not have to go to college, graduate in 4 years, and have a job in 2 years. My kid can realistically do whatever they want. They can switch their careers, they can fail, and it's okay. And it's also, I'm pretty sure they feel proud of their kid because they're like, oh, my kid goes through the same things they're going through, and they're still trying their best.
That's it's interesting. That's the parental perspective is, I think, something that would connect the parents and the kids to what's going on now. But you also have another group that is an ardent listener, a third group.
Oh, yes. So the third group is actually younger than 18, which I was interestingly surprised to, because we mainly focus on people that graduated a year afterwards. And we're still learning about why is that audience, why is that our third largest audience. But I think from what I know from the people that actually talk to me about it, is that they love how real the stories are, they tell me. Huh. They talk to me, I have some friends that run a movie podcast, two of them here in Monrovia, one called Socratic Cinema and the other one called Every Marvel Movie Ever, where they talk about every Marvel movie ever. And they tell me, like, Jeffrey, we talk about, arts, and we sit down and we talk, but you're actually talking about, quote unquote, their words, real stuff. Like people failing and trying to figure out what they want to do in life when, they have been going through the toughest struggles, really, of the beginning of their career. So.
I'm listening to you talk about some of the things that have gone on, and let me share a little bit with you about my first job out of college.
Yeah, I was going to say.
So my first job, I went to the University of Wyoming. I came back to Los Angeles with a job at a local radio station. This is in the era before cell phones. And so I'm driving with my U-Haul and my car in tow, and I'm thinking I'm going to go be a big major market radio guy. I've been doing radio for all of college. And so I get to LA, and I get home, and go to my parents' house. That was the phone number that I gave the station. And my dad says, I have some news for you. Didn't say bad news or good news. He says, I have some news for you. Like, oh, what's that? He goes, you were fired before you ever started. So while I was on the road for 4.5 days, taking my time, making an enjoyable trip, for the 4.5-day trip from Laramie, Wyoming to Los Angeles, they had called me up and said that the position I was hired for had been completely eliminated.
Oh, no.
Yeah, 4.5 days.
How did you feel?
It felt terrible. But luckily, the program director at the time, he did say that it was for a traffic job, doing traffic for a local radio station. Mm-hmm. He did give me the name of the company they had contracted with to do traffic, and they hired me a week later. So it worked out well, but it was a very traumatic first real-world job. So I get it. Not much has changed between then and now. No. Except for the cell phone.
Oh,
yeah. Yes. They could have called me directly.
Well, you're definitely right, too. Also, I didn't touch about that, about our second largest audience. It's not just about, kids. It's also, I believe, people in their 40s and 50s, coming out from the millennial sort of boomer generation. They had to go through stuff, too, with their parents. And so, some people were servers, and they remember they wanted to start up a business, and that didn't end up happening. Right. But that's okay. But talking with some younger people that are trying to reach for their dreams, sort of, it's a little nostalgia for people their age as well.
And where can we listen to Becoming the Podcast?
You can listen to Becoming the Podcast on Spotify, Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio app. We're on over 9 platforms. If you look up my name, Jeffrey Ramos, on any of those, it'll be this green little logo. And we are very happy to have worked with a variety of different age groups, and I also have a composer that has also made some unique music for our podcast. So whether you want to be interviewed or whether you want to listen, just feel free to follow us on our social medias and other stuff.
All right. Jeffrey Ramos, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you for sharing as well.
Of course.
We should have you on.
Ethel Gardner reminds us that overcoming fear is simply taking one courageous step at a time. Ethel now tells us about an incident in her childhood that led to fearful moments all throughout her adulthood and how she overcame it.
So, I mean, you talk about having this anger. Like, how did you deal with that?
I didn't know it was anger at the time. I had no idea what anger was or what it wasn't. I was just always nervous. I had a lot of nervousness and a lot of anxieties, and I was sick all the time. I was really, I was a sick child. And I think because of the burdens I carried inside, the fears I had inside, those are the things that when I would talk to people, they go, "Are you mad? Are you angry?" I go, "I don't think so," because I had this real soft exterior. So it didn't make sense for me to say I was angry. You know, when I look at angry people, you can look at them and say, they're angry. But that wasn't me. But it was me. On the inside, I carried and I buried everything on the inside, and I was so angry. And so, yes, if you know, to look back in retrospect and to think about my childhood, I wish that I had dealt with some of that anger a long time ago, and I just didn't. I just didn't know. I didn't know it was anger. I didn't know how fearful I was. I was afraid of almost everything. And I thought, if I lost my dad, so it was almost like at 8, 9, 10, I became this overprotective person, and it almost consumed me. I just did not want to lose my father, and sometimes my behavior would become so sporadic. I just lost myself in the whole thing of dealing with my parents. You know, my mom leaving and my dad staying. So it was overwhelming for me as a child.
This is getting so sad. I don't know. I mean, I guess there's another question. I don't know if it exactly ties into what you were saying, but I mean, I think how I think of it, there's so many different paths you can take, sure. and I mean, if someone was able to intervene, I think in your situation, do you think, like, how do you think things would change? Like, do you think it would make your life better in some way, and do you think you would have like the same gifts that you have to help other people?
You know, I do remember there was a lady that did intervene at some point in time. She was a social worker. And I remember the neighbors called because we didn't go to school that much. And there was a lady, I remember her name was Miss Knox. I remember her to this day, and she did intervene. And I remember she came there with the idea of taking my father's children away and out of that house. But when she got there, something turned, something switched. And what she did was, I remember this, she literally took her coat off, she took her hat off, and she literally bathed my 3 brothers in a bathtub. And she went to the store, and everything that we didn't have, she bought it. My dad was at work. So she intervened, and instead of taking us away, she literally wrote something up that was so phenomenal that we never saw social workers ever again. They never came to the house. And that was another fear that we had, that we would all be taken away at some point in time. But that intervention with that lady, Miss Knox, I'll never, ever forget it. And it changed my life because I knew then there were still good people in the world. And that's the first and last time we had ever seen her. We never saw her again. But when she walked into that house, everything shifted. That lady became a beacon light with us and to us that very day. Absolutely.
So one of the ways to manage and maybe even overcome a little bit of fear and anxiety is a really basic and simple centering meditation. Meditation is blown out of proportion. It is something that's very simple and it's very easy to do. And it really only takes a few minutes. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to get comfortable in our chairs. We're going to keep our feet flat on the ground for now. The idea of meditation is to ground yourself into center. So what a lot of meditation teachers do is they ask you to tap your feet on the ground once or twice so that you get the idea that you're grounded, that you're connected to the earth. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to change our posture. We're not going to get into an uncomfortable position, but we're not going to get into a slouchy position either. We're going to sit with our back straight, our head looking straight ahead. Well, I'm going to be looking at the camera, but so my head will be a little off. But normally you're looking as straight ahead as you possibly can. The next couple steps is just to be with yourself for a minute. You don't want to worry about breathing. Don't worry about the thoughts in your head. Just be with yourself for a minute. And I like to close my eyes for meditation. Some people don't. Some people will focus on a point off in the distance. I get distracted by that. Not everybody does. So you find a point, or you close your eyes, and you get in your nice, not relaxed posture, but not a uptight posture. You don't want to be wearing your shoulders as earrings, but you also don't want to be all slouchy in the chair. So you're in your comfortable position, and you just want to start by taking a couple of deep breaths all the way in and all the way out. You don't want to count it. You don't want to time it. You just want to take 1 or 2 really deep cleansing breaths. In the beginning as a meditator, you really don't want to worry about breathing into the nose or mouth. Just breathe for right now. If this is your first time meditation or first time meditating, or you don't have any experience in it at all, or you've done very little meditating, don't worry about breathing into the mouth or out to the nose or anything like that. Just breathe. Okay. That's the key. So what we're doing is we're in our posture, our eyes are closed, we're fixed on a point off in the distance. Take a couple of quick cleansing breaths. All the way in and all the way out. So right now your hands are on your knees. What you want to try and do is connect your hands somehow. You can connect them using this posture, which is a really traditional posture, but just as long as your fingers are connected. Interlace is often the easiest way to do it. And then you want to breathe in for a count of 4. Hold your breath for a second, and then breathe it all the way out. Now your exhale is going to be probably a little longer than your inhale the first couple of times, and that's okay. And you want to breathe in for that 4 count, hold it for just a second, and let it go. You want to do the breath in for a 4 count and all the way out 4 or 5 times. 4 seems to be about the magic number in meditation. So what you're doing here is you're giving these deep cleansing breaths. You're cleaning out your lungs. You're cleaning out your bloodstream. When you're stressed, when you're fearful, you have this chemical called cortisol in your body. And so by taking these deep breaths in, you're just slightly increasing the way your body metabolizes that cortisol. So you want to do it 4 or 5 times. And you just want to take a 4 count breath in, hold it, and let it all out. While this is going on, you don't want to be concerned with the thoughts in your brain. You just kind of want to let them be. You want to ignore them, just kind of put them aside. The more you put them aside, the more you're doing stuff with them, and the more you're manipulating them. So what you really want to do is just ignore them. And you do this 4 or 5 times, whatever works for you. And then you want to lightly, slowly disconnect your hands and place them on your knees again. And you want to do the breath cycle 1 more time. Then you want to bring your hands together in front of you, like in a prayerful position. Bring your hands up. Take a breath, hold it, and let it all the way out. And then you want to bring your hands down to your sides. Take 1 more deep breath. Hold it. And let it go. And let it all the way out. You want to stamp your feet 1 more time. And that's it. And you should, by this point, 7 or 8 in and out breaths like that, really deep. You should have a very relaxed and centered feeling. Sometimes people like to stand up and do the hand thing, whatever works for you. I like to sit. That change in posture, the change in modality it breaks it up too much for me, but some people like to stand. So it's just a really simple act. Your hands are up and you bring them down. And that will bring you back to center. And that is one great way during stressful moments or moments of anxiety to kind of bring yourself back to center. It takes 3 or 4 minutes. It's simple. It can be done anywhere. I guarantee you it'll improve your stressful situation and bring you back to a little bit of grounded peace.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Fear and anxiety are very real for every generation. Ava has talked a little bit about fear, and her friends have really addressed some of their fears in a conversation that they've never had before. We're grateful for Ava's friends and for her conversation with them.
Thank you so much for watching Children of Courage.